The Ozark Mountains are a bit strange in general. Having formed presumably about 1.3 billion years ago, they existed during a time frame when most of the planet was underwater. These mountains that used to be nothing more than a few islands dotting the surface of a blue world would sort of stand the test of time as they were eroded down. Over time, however, the water would recede and these mountains would stand in the middle of a tectonic plate, confusing people for quite some time. Perhaps because of the strangeness that the mountains present, it is assumed that strange creatures lurk within as well. So I'm gonna be straight up honest, it's known as the Fouke monster, but I've also heard it pronounced Fouke monster. We're just gonna call it the Boggy Creek monster, and we're gonna call the town the place where the Boggy Creek monster lives. But this is an absolute beast of a cryptid that remains a legend in the heart of Fouke, Arkansas. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say the town name because people are gonna say I pronounced it wrong anyways. So for decades, this mythical creature has horrified and disturbed residents and visitors of the area as people would tell tales, perhaps even Roanoke tales, of sightings, eerie encounters, and unexplained phenomena. As the story of the Fouke monster has been passed down time and time again, it has become quite literally a part of the town and the surrounding area itself. Though the alleged interactions with people over time, the stories appear to be a mixing and weaving between reality and fictional storytelling. Now personally, I've been through Arkansas like once in my life, and I had to take a back road because quite literally the highway was a parking lot. If there are monsters out there, they would be in Arkansas. And also, why is it Kansas and Arkansas and not Kansas and Arkansas? Anywho, without a doubt, there's probably something out there, but moving on. So in today's episode, let's discuss the supporting interactions as well as talk about why this may just be some bad stuff that got into people's bodies. Some of these are essentially like your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving screaming about how aliens he saw in ancient aliens abducted him when he was 19. But before moving on, I want to say thank you guys for all your support on this channel, absolute ballers. And remember, we can get this channel up to 1 million subscribers. I will quite literally go up to Michigan where the Dogman is, said to lurk around like every year ending with 7, and try to find it. I'm also rounding up a posse to do this as well, and staying strapped so I don't get clapped. But let's get to it. The Fouke monster sightings and encounters have been reported by numerous individuals over the years, dating back all the way to the early 1900s and gaining way more momentum in the 1970s. The accounts vary in details, but they all share some common elements: that a large, hairy, and elusive creature was lurking in the swamps and forests of Fouke, Arkansas. As more and more people became aware that there may be a creature lurking just beyond the tree line ready to snack on a manwich, the stories would start being spread faster and faster, as there's nothing people love more than just a good monster story. I mean, look at this channel and similar channels. People love monsters. One of the more famous encounters occurred in May of 1971 when Bobby Ford, a local resident of Fouke, claimed to have seen the Fouke monster outside of his house. As he watched it, it watched him. He would state that it was a man-like creature that stood over 7 feet tall based on the objects around him that he could compare it to. What's more alarming though, is according to his account, the creature had a chest that was over 3 feet in length, which arguably would have been terrifying running across a creature like this. It then ran up to him, for some reason put his arm around his shoulder and grabbed him. Ford was able to break free from this creature somehow, which, good lord, I mean, that seems difficult, where he would then run to his house with such speed, he said he wouldn't even bother opening the front door, but pretty much just barreled through it. An interesting aspect of this story is that apparently Ford said that he had actually seen this thing around his house for several days, and that there were other eyewitnesses, including his brother and hunting companion. Ford's wife, Elizabeth, claimed that while she was asleep in the front room, she awoken and saw a hairy arm with claws coming in the window. She also saw the creature's red eyes, apparently. On the night of the attack, Ford claimed that he and his hunting buddy were actually spotting the creature way out in the back of Ford's house with the aid of a flashlight. They shot at it and thought that they saw it fall, and as the men started towards it, Bobby then had to run back to the house as he heard women screaming. Upon Ford's return back to the house, he was attacked. The men shot at the creature several more times, but investigators never found any blood, and the sheriff's department searched the area, and the only thing the officers actually found were a set of strange tracks and claw scratches on Ford's porch. There's also some other sightings that other people would corroborate as evidence, but really it's just anecdotal storytelling. The Smith family, who lived near Boggy Creek, reported a series of encounters with the Fouke monster in about the late 1970s as well. They described a large ape-like creature that repeatedly approached their property, making eerie vocalizations and leaving behind tracks and disturbed the vegetation around. As it would stay back, they never really got to take a pot shot at it, and they couldn't fully identify what it actually was, but the vocalizations would continue for quite some time before the creature appeared to all but disappear, leaving the Smiths just massively confused about why a standard Arkansas man was out there just yelling at them. Time passed, as time tends to do, before more sightings would start arriving, and then in 1981, a man named Turner reported an encounter with the Fouke monster while he was hunting near Boggy Creek. According to his account, he came face to face with this creature describing it as a massive, hairy, bipedal being with red glowing eyes, just as all the others had stated. The encounter apparently left him shaken and fearful of returning to the area of which he never wanted to again, and as I've mentioned prior, if you were wondering why he didn't take the advice of Robert Muldoon from Jurassic Park and shoot ha! It's because apparently lead doesn't actually do anything against this thing. So then I'm starting to kind of figure out that about a decade of time will pass in between these sightings. In 1991, a man by the name of Humphrey claimed to have encountered the Fouke monster while fishing along Boggy Creek as well. He described the creature as tall, covered in hair, and possessing an overpowering odor, which honestly kind of sounds like the Goat Man, but the sighting startled him and prompted him to just straight up abandon his fishing trip and leave the area immediately. Although he said the thing didn't really get in the water and like try to attack him, that was enough for him. Sightings of the Fouke monster have continued actually into the 21st century with sporadic reports from locals and visitors. Those accounts are often describing a very similar creature with features consistent with previous sightings, which is everything that has been said. It's just a large, hairy being with glowing red eyes. Some have claimed to further seen him walking through woods Bigfoot style, while others have seen him jump from bridges into bodies of water, but in reality this could have just been somebody trying to escape the 100-degree heat that has come through the area. Because good lord, it is hot out there. I mean, I can deal with heat, but it's like 70% humidity at 95 degrees. It's like hard to breathe. You want to talk about things being swampy? Okay, anyways. It's important to note that while these sightings and encounters have been reported by individuals who genuinely believe they saw something, the validity of these stories is something that does in fact leave a lot to be desired, and you should always approach these kind of things with skepticism. The dark and remote nature of swampy terrain surrounding Fouke, combined with the prominence of the Fouke monster legend, can kind of contribute to misidentifications, which humans are notoriously famous for. Straight up hoaxes being applied to it because it's a July afternoon and you're bored with your friends, and sometimes just the absolute amplification of local folklore when you're talking about stuff and it's dark outside and you're in a swamp, you tend to see things. But despite attempts by researchers to investigate the sightings and gather actual physical evidence, Fouke monster remains quite the elusive cryptid. You know what? I mean, to be honest with you, I'm only like an 8-hour drive away from there. I should actually go and check this out at some point, and if I stop posting one day, you know that it was either the Dogman, the Fouke monster, or the giant robots that apparently live under Mount Shasta. Avenge me. That said, remember, these are stories with no conclusive evidence to confirm any of their existence, including the Fouke monster, but sometimes anecdotal evidence of something can be considered if enough of it is present. The enduring stories of these sightings and encounters continue to actually just straight up fuel fascination and mystery surrounding the Fouke monster in the lore of Arkansas and on this absolutely cracked out channel. It's me. I'm actually the guy fascinated by this thing. So the Fouke monster, within its long history of sightings and encounters, has spawned numerous investigations by both your average guy who's going to get eaten by the Fouke monster and renowned cryptozoologists who are equally likely to get eaten by the Fouke monster. So how do you designate the difference between the two? Well, one will tell you he's a renowned cryptozoologist. These investigations have sought to sort of shed light on the elusive creature's existence and potential origins. So just so we know what a cryptozoologist even is, essentially those are people who studied rumored or speculated creatures that are supposed to exist, and they've kind of, at least the Fouke monster in general, have been at the forefront of it, armed with sort of like a mix of scientific inquiry and open minds to the possibility of discovering this new species, and these researchers have ventured into the swamp and dense forests of Fouke and its surroundings. And something to remember is it's really easy to make fun of people like this. Not that you should make fun of people, but as a species, we find species all the time that we thought were either extinct or didn't even exist in the first place. So it's not really that strange that there are things out there that we might not know. So just always keep that in mind. But some of the things that the field researchers on their on-site investigations have found after like interviewing witnesses and collecting physical evidence, as well as setting up camera traps to capture potential sightings of the creature, their presence in the community may have an unintended consequence of validating all of these stories of locals who have encountered any cryptids, in this case the Fouke monster, and it kind of encourages further reports from those who may have been hesitant to come forward, but it also likely encourages those who are just straight up lying. Now, that said, some of the things that they have found are interesting. Hair samples, footprints, kind of more of the crucial aspects of these investigators in their search for physical evidence, and numerous reports have mentioned the discovery of these large footprints in the mud and soil near sightings. The researchers have meticulously documented and analyzed these prints to determine if they correspond with any known animal species, or if they have just their own characteristics that might say that this is an unknown creature. In addition to footprints, alleged hair samples have been collected from areas where sightings occur. These hair samples have undergone various analyses, including DNA testing, to determine if they match known animal species or if they present anomalies that warrant further investigation. Because if you find a bunch of hair and it's just bear hair, well, you know what it is now. But government and scientific responses to the legend of the Fouke monster has actually started gaining momentum as of late. It caught the attention of local authorities and scientific organizations, and in some instances, government officials have conducted their own investigations to allay public concerns and understand the nature of reported sightings. Like, if you have a whole town freaked out about something in the woods, you're gonna have to go check it out. But how exactly did that go, I can hear you asking? Due to the elusive nature of this creature and complete lack of concrete evidence, such as investigations which yielded inconclusive results, that likely means officers walked into the woods, hung out for a few, basically went on a hike, and then exited the forest saying they found nothing. Mainstream scientific organizations have generally been pretty skeptical of cryptids. Consequently, they have not conducted extensive investigations into this matter. The lack of funding, because it's just your average person going out there, and low probability of confirming the existence of an unknown creature have contributed to scientific community's hesitance in dedicating any significant resources to anything like this. However, one of the things you should note is that its prominence is becoming more and more pronounced, I guess you could say, in our culture in general, because here we are. There's been books and movies, The Legend of Boggy Creek, which has essentially led to an influx of amateur enthusiasts and filmmakers attempting to investigate this creature. And then you've got me, cracked out on a YouTube channel, talking about the Boggy Creek monster. While the passion on this subject is pretty good, and it's like, yeah, okay, people really want to figure it out. The problem is that nobody so far has come up with a good way of questioning people and making sure they're not lying, or just figuring out in general if this thing is actually out there. The influence of the media and entertainment on this investigation for this monster raises questions about the balance between scientific inquiry and sensationalism. As the creature continues to capture public imagination, discerning fact from fiction becomes essential as the aspect of credible research comes into question. The investigation into this thing has kind of been multifaceted as an endeavor, encompassing the efforts of cryptozoologists, field researchers, and government authorities, and not to mention your random YouTuber. The search for physical evidence, interviews and eyewitnesses, and the impact of popular media on investigations have all played significant roles in shaping the cryptid legend in general, and the idea around this thing is it real or is it just a falsehood? While the mystery of the Fouke monster remains unsolved, it's sort of irrelevant to those who actually believe it, as it has ingrained itself quite permanently in the psyche of humans. With supporting stories comes a healthy, and I mean healthy, amount of skepticism concerning this existence. As with many cryptid legends, this is fairly par for the course because you just don't want to believe that everything exists. Otherwise, you start kind of losing touch with reality. But others approach this legend with a critical eye, questioning the validity of reported sightings and evidence. And additionally, some individuals have attempted to perpetuate hoaxes, adding further layers of complexity to the already difficult tale of the Fouke monster, and if it's really real. One of the primary reasons for skepticism surrounding this thing is the absence of anything supporting its existence. What's the old saying? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Well, if we don't find any evidence, despite numerous accounts of sightings and encounters, no evidence, no creature. I mean, there's no photographs, videos, or even remains that have been presented to definitely prove this creature's a reality. Skeptics argue that the lack of hard evidence does raise doubts about the authenticity of reported encounters. So with this, because we do not find evidence, this brings up the more logical argument. What if someone just didn't know what they were looking at? Skeptics propose that many alleged sightings of the Fouke monster could be contributed to basically misidentifications of known animals or natural phenomena. In the dim lighting and under stressful situation, human perception is exceedingly susceptible to errors, leading to misinterpretation of ordinary wildlife as something to be more extraordinary. As we will come to find out, most sightings actually take place at night, further causing issue. I remember one time I was actually out for a run on a path. It was that time of night where the sun has gone down, but there was still like a blue hue of light, making it just possible to see about 15 or 20 feet ahead when something walked into the path. It scared the absolute hell out of me because I looked at it and it looked like this thing had 6 legs and wasn't shaped like anything I'd ever seen before. Come to find out, it was just a guy walking his dogs, and I actually yelled at them like a complete psycho just prior to learning that it was just a guy with his dog, because it startled the hell out of me. If that can happen to me, it can happen to people who claim to have seen it as well. And then there's also the aspect of getting attention if you have claimed to have seen this thing that stands out as an issue as well. The fame, particularly through movies like The Legend of Boggy Creek, has led to an increase in attention on this legend. It may have influenced subsequent sightings. Critics argue that the power of suggestion and the desire to be a part of the lore could lead to some individuals to report sightings, even when they have not encountered anything unusual. And don't even get me started on early adults going through puberty. They're kind of known for this. Some reported sightings of the Fouke monster may have just been straight up hoaxes perpetuated by individuals seeking attention or engaging in pranks, because it's always just a prank, bro. Hoaxes involving individuals dressed in costumes or using props to simulate encounters can fuel the legend while also undermining its credibility. Just remember, the Michigan Dogman was completely fake, supposedly. I mean, people claim to have seen it, but the guys who claim to have done it or seen it specifically are also the ones who made it up because they had wore like a suit or something. So yeah, that happens. The allure of being associated with mysterious and famous legends like the Fouke monster could be a motivation for a lot of individuals to just straight up fabricate things. The desire for recognition or a place in the annals of the legend's history might lead some to concoct just massive elaborate hoaxes. Skepticism and potential hoaxes are inherent aspects of any cryptid legend, including that of this monster. While some individuals genuinely believe in the creature's existence and have shared sincere accounts with their encounters, others remain doubtful due to the lack of concrete evidence and the potential influence of human perception and popular culture impacting them. As investigations continue and new accounts emerge, the challenge remains to differentiate between genuine sightings and hoaxes to figure out if this thing is true. So we have the support for and we have the support against this creature, although I think I have an idea as to what this thing actually is, but we'll discuss that later. So let's take a look at its morphology, or at least hear about its morphology, which will give us an idea of what this thing is. The physical aspect of this creature is odd enough, appearing almost like an ape of some sort by the descriptions, and given the broad thoracic region, this seems to support this. But the monster's alleged behavior and habitat have been subject to massive speculation and interest among everyone. So I'm just gonna come out and say it. It seems scared of humans, but considering we have the ability to throw lead with the greatest of ease, it is right to fear Homo sapiens, because humanity is number one, baby. While concrete evidence concerning this thing, as we have discussed, is pretty scarce, eyewitness accounts and reported encounters provide insights into how this cryptid is said to behave and where it might dwell. One common characteristic reported in just the numerous sightings is that he's apparently fairly camera shy, and the only evidence that we probably have is a guy who took a photo on his Razr phone from 2003, and he caught a blurry swipe photo where you can see this thing inhabits 4 pixels. Witnesses often describe this creature vanishing quickly into the dense foliage after being spotted, leaving little opportunity for further investigation. Moreover, many encounters occur at night, with witnesses reporting the creature is most active during the cover of darkness, making it more challenging to study or capture. Others would go on to claim to have seen the monster display aggressive behavior, such as loud vocalizations, pre-shaking, and charging towards individuals. These aggressive postures could be interpreted as the creature defending its territory and reacting to perceived threats. With this in mind, to me, I think you can kind of see it too. The idea around this creature almost appears like someone might have released a gorilla into the surrounding area for funsies, because that is a very human thing to do. But despite these aggressive displays, the monster is often described as being more interested in avoiding human contact rather than seeking it out. Many encounters occur when witnesses unexpectedly stumble upon the creature's presence, suggesting that it prefers to stay hidden and undisturbed. Reported sightings of this creature consistently place it in swampy and densely forested areas. Boggy Creek is a prominent location in these accounts and would provide the ideal habitat. Many sightings have involved encounters near bodies of water such as creeks, rivers, and marshes, and some speculate that the creature's preference for water-related habitats might indicate its reliance on aquatic resources for sustenance or potentially as a means of escape. But one of the questions that has been raised is this thick vegetation serving both as a refuge and hunting ground for the creature who is now adapted to this wilderness setting? But I bet you're a lot like me. You sit there and wonder at what this thing could even be eating. Are we finding animals torn apart? Chew marks on trees? I mean, after all, the creature is reported to be over 7 feet tall, so it's got to be taken in calories somewhere. Cryptozoologists and enthusiasts have speculated that the monster could be an unknown or relic species, a remnant population of a prehistoric creature that survived into modern times. This theory attributes the creature's limited sightings and rarity to its ability to remain elusive. But what we're not finding is what is it eating? Given its behavior and its environment that it's going to inhabit, this kind of says that the creature is likely omnivorous, consuming a diet of plant matter, small animals, and potentially scavenging for food in its habitat. While the monster's behavior and habitat are primarily based on eyewitness accounts and local folklore, these aspects have been central to its legend. The creature's nocturnal activity, elusiveness, and purported habitat in swampy and densely forested areas paint a picture of a mysterious and potentially territorial cryptid. Theories about its origins and diet further contribute to the ongoing kind of mystery that surrounds it. As investigators continue and interest in this creature persists, uncovering the truth behind its behavior and habitat remains an ongoing pursuit in the realm of cryptozoology and the study of unexplained phenomena. The legend is deeply intertwined with the very fabric of Fouke, Arkansas. Passed down through generations, the tales of the creature's encounters have become an integral part of the local folklore and heritage. Embracing the legend allows residents to celebrate the unknown, and apparently it creates a sense of pride over there, because they belong to a very unique community that there's something out there that is omnivore, which means it eats meat, and it's just kind of stalking around. So whether viewed as a genuine cryptid or a cherished myth, the monster continues to be a source of fascination and does actually hold cultural significance in the lives of those who call it home. Now, you can say that this is, oh, that's completely ridiculous, but that's what humans do. I mean, look at any group of people from anywhere. We all have our stories about something out in the woods. So what do I actually believe this thing to be? While this tends to make people angry in the comments for God knows what reason, I think this is just a classic case of misidentification. I mean, think about it. People were typically half asleep when they saw this thing. Their glasses were at lens crafters for the day, and they had an eye infection, and they hadn't slept in 19 hours. But they know what they saw. All right, that last part was just a joke, but because this thing appears at night mostly, it seems to me people just didn't know what they were looking at. A lot of times, the human brain doesn't have all the information. It's interesting because we tend to fill in the blank with not normal things, like creatures that could be in the area, such as bears, or you know what, actually both black bears and grizzly bears live in that area, and we know grizzly bears can stand up to 9 feet tall when standing on their hind legs and have incredibly massive torsos. Actually, if you didn't know, grizzly bears are also nocturnal in the early spring and summer months, and then switch to crepuscular and diurnal in the later summer months to fall months. So I think it goes down a lot like this. Someone sees a bear of some kind, possibly one that has mange, with accounts of a hairy arm, meaning that they could see the skin, but there was still a lot of hair, and then claws. They misidentify it, which in turn leads them to tell a story about a really weird looking animal, and boom, we now have a cryptid. I think this was a bear personally, and like with Bigfoot stories, it's just misidentified. If you really want to get squirrely with it, you could even say that an ape of some kind was brought over, and when it got too old, the owners just released it, because that actually tends to happen. And look, I'm not bashing Arkansas, but there are a lot of weird things that go on over there. But ultimately, whether it's real or fake is irrelevant. To those who claim to have seen it and really do believe that they had, a YouTube video isn't going to sway their opinion on it. The only thing that we can really do is, well, just go find the thing. Otherwise, it will remain a strange encounter supported over the last century by a few people who have claimed to actually see this thing. But anyhow, I want to thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, leaving a like would be great, and subscribing lets me know that you're still enjoying the content. But I want to hear what you guys think. Real or fake? Personally, I mean, the world is a big place, and we do find species from time to time that we didn't think existed at all, but there's just not enough evidence to support that this is real, and there's too much normal circumstances that could explain why this thing, I mean, if it's going near creeks and rivers, we know bears hunt creeks and rivers. It's just, it seems like there's a much more rational explanation. But anyhow, that's gonna do it for me. I hope everyone enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.